So thank you all for joining. Happy Wednesday once again. Welcome to another edition of the Growth Clinic. For those of y'all that are new here, the Growth Clinic is a community event we put on every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's all about solving our biggest digital marketing and growth marketing challenges together. Each week we cover a specific particular topic. We do a deep dive on it. First half is me basically grilling Chris here. So I'm Jarrett. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Web Mechanics, here with our fearless leader, co-founder and CEO, Chris Mechanic. First half of the interview, we will grill Chris on the topic du jour, and then the second half we'll get into Q&A where you guys can jump in and get your questions answered as well. And today's topic is all about ads and landing pages. So winning the click and then what happens after the click, right? How do we get our folks not only to get to our website or get to our lead form or whatever that action is we want them to take, but how do we then get them to take the action, right? How do we get more of them to do it and doing it in a way that works for the ultimate outcomes we're looking to achieve? So I guess to kick us off here, Chris, let's get into it and talk about ads. There's a lot of stuff changing in the advertising ecosystem, but the one thing that remains consistent is creative. So I'm curious to hear from you, Chris, today, what kind of ads are really winning the click and getting our customers to click over?
For sure. And I know you have a lot of the examples, if you could cue them up just so we can show them quickly.
Sure.
But before I even get into that, ads and landing pages, just the sound of those words, like I get excited about that. So before even any specifics, I think it's a lot about mindset. Like if you're excited by it, if you're like excited to check the reports and you're like going aggressively after it and you're like ready to, make change, like you're like watching it in there, you're going after it, you're aggressive, you're celebratory. It's like a game, it's like a competition, like you want to drive your competitors up the wall. So a lot of it is with mind space. So like, let's say you take somebody with the mind space that I just described, hungry, going after it, versus somebody that's not, like all things equal, the person that's, motivated and hungry and going after it's working. And I got lucky because I just love this stuff. Like this is fun for me. So think like a scientist, think like almost like it's a sport and you want to get really good at it. But the types of ads that work are the ads that don't really seem like ads. Like nobody likes ads. If you did a survey and was like, hey, raise your, who likes ads? It would be like 98% hate ads and only 2% of nerds like me like love them, because I'm like, anywhere I'm going, I'm looking around and looking at all the ads just to get ideas. But the best ones are ads that don't look like ads, especially on social. Like if you're on social and you're running, bottom funnel stuff, it's not going to work because people aren't there, to buy your product necessarily or to shop. So you definitely want to lead with value. Other things like in the realm of social are just movement, because you gotta really think about the person on the other side of the screen, what they're doing, and basically somehow get their attention. So movement, typography, language, which is a pattern interrupt, meaning that it breaks the person's state, because you're competing with cute cats and babies. Jared, if you want to, actually, I could probably as well share a few examples of ads that I think are good, some of which we did and some of which I just found in the wild. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
So this is a document. I would recommend you guys keep one of these. It's like a swipe file. So I've been keeping this, for many years. But here's an ad that worked really, really well because it's interactive, it's engaging. It's not actually, it's just a Facebook ad, it's just an image. But I can bet that a lot of people were clicking on those because they appear to be drop downs. So anything that is interactive or appears to be interactive is good. It's not, so this is kind of a mix of ads and landing pages. We'll get into the landing pages section. But anytime, well, yeah, we'll get into the landing pages section soon. But here's a good one. Colorful. It's not boring. It is for a boring product, but it's like anything but boring. Here's one for a fellow digital advertiser. Joey, I love the smell of Google Analytics in the morning. You know, it's just like it's a pattern interrupt. It's funny a little bit. Here you go, showing emotion. So you'll see like, you know, a lot of emotional ads. Like there's one that I'll show you in a minute where the person's like celebrating, like, yes, can work. You also see the colors. You see the really readable text and writing like a human. This one does look like an ad, but let me see what else is here. So something like this is an ad. So we're doing, you know, a lot of times B2Bs will run like, you know, case studies or a ebook or a white paper or something as an ad. You might bundle a bunch, or like you might bundle 2 or 3 together to create a higher perceived value. So I don't think there's necessarily one, you know, overarching uh, type of ad that does well, but there's different elements of ad, like anything new and novel. So you'll see a little bit later on down here, you've got new and novel, like, hey, what, Jack Welch has an MBA program. So anything new, anything interactive, or anything just like super dense with value. So like as opposed to running, you know, a single asset, if you bundle it, that's an example of increasing perceived value. Sorry, I know that was a little bit all over the place.
No, I love it. I love it. And yeah, I think you know, some other things that can work, you know, are just like things you mentioned, interactivity. Um, Chris, do you want to talk about this poll ad? I thought this was a really interesting example. Um, you know, and it kind of leads into another concept that we hold near and dear to our hearts, which is about understanding the intent and the quality of users that you're engaging.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me grab that. Yeah, so poll ads, this is an ad format on Facebook, literally called a poll ad. And it's really interesting because you can actually learn about the user. So here you can see this question, do you think clothing should be gendered, yes or no? So within Facebook, and I don't believe you can do this on LinkedIn yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with it. You can run ads like these, and here's another relevant example, like what's your next adventure, Iceland or Italy. So if you can find a question that's relevant to your business that also provides some useful segmentation mechanism, think almost like the first few questions that your sales team would ask a new prospect on the phone. You could run poll ads, and these are really interesting because once users make a selection, you can customize their experience based on that selection. You can also create audience segments. So in this case, you know, what's your next adventure, Iceland versus Italy? If they got 1,000 clicks on each of those, then they could basically say, okay, Iceland bound group, let's talk about Iceland. Let's talk about some other things you might, let's talk about things you might want to do in Iceland, et cetera, et cetera. So think about it in general for both ads and landing pages. It's very, very useful to think about what are the questions that you could ask somebody if you were on the phone with them, if your sales team was on the phone with them. What are the questions that you could ask them that would give you indications of quality? And that goes into IOIs and IOQs. So and that's indications of intent and indications of quality. So to the extent possible with your ads, like if there's ever an interesting ad format, like LinkedIn Messenger ads are really interesting. You can 100% do that same thing we were just talking about with the polling ads from Facebook. You can 100% do a similar thing with the LinkedIn Messenger ads, and those appear in the prospect's inbox and essentially look like a bot, almost like a drift bot. So that's an amazing format for marketers. And I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about that format because of the ability to segment and retarget to the individuals that don't respond. So it's very useful in both ads and landing pages to think about what are those 3 or 4 questions that the sales team would ask. And the best questions are the ones that that tell you something really, really useful about that prospect, but also that aren't like that overt and that in your face. You know, like you don't want to start with what's your budget, for instance. You know, you might start with something a little bit more benign, like how many employees do you have? So those are IOIs and IOQs, and they're mostly used in landing page or on landing pages because there's not really that many ad formats that allow it, though both Facebook and LinkedIn do have them. Google may have some kind of interactive format like that. I would have to check on it to be sure. But yeah, so I kind of lost my train of thought there, Jared. Reel me back
Yeah,
in.
I think you were getting into sort of the landing page side. So we talked a bit about ads and kind of the different concepts and features that get our consumers to engage with us. So once they click that ad, what can we do on those landing pages to get them to their destination and make that, make the right people do that also. And maybe we can touch a little bit on how we can use those IOIs and IOQs in that landing page experience to make sure we're hitting the right folks with the right intent.
100%. Yeah, so I'll show you some IOI and IOQ examples right here. Here is a B2C. This was a window replacement company. They had your typical landing page, form on the right, a little bit of content on the left, the offer, whatever. It wasn't doing horribly. It was converting around 7.5%, and 35% of the leads sat for appointments, sales appointments. So we switched it up. We flipped the funnel over. Instead of starting selfishly with the information that you want so that you can, add them to CRM and sell them, we start unselfishly with the questions that you would ask a qualified prospect if you were on the phone with them. So like, what's going on with your windows, drafty, leaky, behind the scenes, we're firing events within Google Analytics, and sometimes, depending on selections, we'll fire conversions within the ad platform, which sends a powerful ping of relevancy to the AI that's baked into the ad platforms, letting them know that it's a good one. This wasn't an example of that. In this one, we just tracked whatever people clicked. But immediately when we launched this, our bounce rates, because the clicks on the page are technically counted as virtual page views, the bounce rates almost went through the floor. Like they used to be 90% and they were like 50, 60, 40, 50, 60 range. And then once these selections were made, it asked you how many windows do you have, and then it went for zip code, and then it went for first name, last name. So that immediately more than doubled that conversion rate and the lead to appointment rate dramatically. So this company made millions and millions of dollars from this funnel. Another story here, also a B2C, is Clear One. So here's their typical landing page, 3.5% conversion rate, $400 cost per lead. Here's the after experience. Again, same playbook. What we're doing is we're asking the questions that the sales team would ask in a benign and friendly way. So this one nearly quadrupled the conversion rate and slashed the cost per lead down to $80. Now this particular client was running on Facebook, but here's another example. So a wealth management firm wants to attract high net worth prospects, right? So they have your typical form, which was doing fine, but we added this one, a self-selector of basically what are your investable assets. Actually, no, this client had that already. But they weren't tracking it and they weren't optimizing toward it or bidding toward it. So that's the thing that we did differently to light this particular one up. Here's another one from, or we might have seen this one already. No, but this is another one from financial services. This whole experience is just wired with data signals, and then we'll selectively choose like which of those to follow. Another example, these are all B2C examples. I'm sure we have some B2Bs too.
Yeah.
But another example in solar. So previously they were doing your typical, form on the right, content on the left. It was doing, I don't know, probably not very well. I think it was 2.5 or 3%. This one's like 8%. And basically, this particular client can only sell to somebody who owns a home. So if they select yes here, we'll apply a little bit of credit. But if they select no, we apply 0 credit. And we thereby train back the algorithms to basically, hey, find us more yeses. Dig deep into your massive user data sets and find more and more people that look like these 100 that clicked yes, basically. So the essence of IOIs and IOQs are ads and post-click experiences that generate useful data signals that you can use to segment, you can use to build audiences to retarget to, and you can use to train the robots.
Yep. Yep, that's awesome. And in terms of B2B examples, Chris, let me know if this link works, but this is actually a screenshot from Slack of something really tricky we did on a B2B SaaS client's landing page that cranked up demo rates pretty significantly.
Let me see here. Yeah, I'm not seeing.
It's not taking you there.
That.
Yeah,
But I can describe it verbally though.
Yeah, if you want to, that'd be great.
So it was your typical demo request page in a SaaS environment. We did one simple thing that dramatically increased the submissions of that form. And we asked folks if they wanted a live demo or if they would rather us send them a pre-recorded demo. And almost immediately, submissions just like took off, and that was the win moment. Like, you should have seen how many likes and comments and stuff were on that particular story. I'm still sharing my screen here, aren't I? But that was just like a major victory moment. And then there was a concern that, hey, these folks might not sell through as well, but the conversion from that demo request to opportunities held steady. In terms of quantity, it was up. The ratio did go down, but the quantity was still up by double digits.
Yeah, that's huge. So that's really cool. So we've talked about the ad piece. We've talked about the landing pages. I guess on landing pages, we talked about IOIs and IOQs. There's some other things we can do tactically on the landing pages to either remove friction that's not useful for the user, or otherwise just make it a better experience for the user overall, and ultimately see more conversions on the back end?
I think that we'll see more and more landing pages which are experiences, multi-step experiences that are more funnel-like. Because if you think about it, it just makes a lot of sense. Like, there is a psychological element of click commitment. Like, once somebody gets started doing something, they're obviously exponentially more, infinitely more likely to finish it. But especially if you can create a relevant experience that's asking good questions, like, it goes back to the questions your sales team are asking good questions. And then the ultimate would be to put out dynamically, like in real time, to render something useful, some kind of useful output. But we'll see more and more, I think, even in B2Bs, these multi-step experiences. And thank you pages, I've said a whole bunch of times, thank you pages, I think, are some of the most underutilized assets on the web. So, like, you could take your demo, your demo form as it is, and add another step, like use that thank you page for something other than just like a, hey, we received your email, thanks, we'll be in touch. Or like, you see a lot of people being like, hey, you might like some of this content. And that's a good thought, but it is a little bit lazy. Like, there's probably something else that you could do on that thank you page to get the deal moving forward a little bit. I think a lot of times, because we're almost 50-50 in terms of B2C and B2B, So we see techniques and tactics a lot of times that B2Cs are doing that it takes a long time for the B2Bs to catch up on. But in the B2C environments, you already see a lot of these multi-step funnels, and you also see microtransactions. So I think it would be really clever for B2Bs to have content which is paid content. Because if you have paid content like paid research and paid reports on your site, even if nobody buys them, it gives a sense of like this content is valuable, like these people are putting out valuable stuff, and some people will buy them. But think about like if there was some way that on that thank you page of the demo the post demo request thank you page, if you could sell somebody something on that page, even if it was for $1, like if there was some way that something that you could offer them that, and you could have a transaction like a credit card swipe happen right then and there, your deal, like your show up to that appointment rate and your deal close rate would probably go through the ceiling, but I think a lot of marketers especially may not have that ability, like that might be not a decision that they can make. Like you can't just create a new offer on the fly if you're at a large organization. But there are probably some things that we could do to deepen that relationship right then and there. Like it could be a invite to some webinar or some event that you're holding, which requires additional information. So they may have filled out like 7 fields on the form, but to get into this one time, or to get into this whatever exclusive webinar, they have to do 3 more fields, for instance. Like there are different ways, but I think in general that thank you page is super underutilized.
Yep, absolutely. Chris, do you mind if I hijack real quick and share a couple of B2B examples?
Sure.
Yeah, let me share my screen real quick. So here's one that I actually just witnessed in the wild. So I'm going to spam their calendar a little bit for the sake of demonstration here. But this is a company, Sweetfish Media. They do podcasts basically for B2B companies. And so check this out. So when you fill out their form, it takes you to schedule a call, right? And then when I schedule this call, so check this out, whatever it is, I hit confirm. Now it's going to redirect me, and it's going to send me, well, it's going to send me to an ad because it's YouTube, right?
That's clever.
Yep. But you know what's coming, right, Chris? All of a sudden I'm on this video and they're going to pre-sell me on why they're the best option for them to consider.
Yeah.
Right? Why you should or shouldn't work with us, which is an interesting angle, right? Because it's saying,
is.
Maybe you're not fit for us. Maybe you can cancel this if you don't meet these criteria, and leave our sales team room for the really good ones that do fit our criteria.
But that's an amazing example. So that's how you can basically leverage the attention that you have in that moment. Like anybody that filled out that demo request form, like they definitely thought about it a little bit before they did it, right? So you have their undivided attention at that moment. So if you want to get like a really powerful sales message in front of them, like that's the time, that's the moment.
Yeah.
You just gave me a few ideas. One is that Drift, the on-site, chat bots,
Yeah.
all ultimate IOI and IOQ generators.
Yeah.
Like you want IOIs and IOQs that you can use to train algorithms and to segment audiences. It's like your Drift bot or your Intercom or whatever. I know there's a lot of players in that space now, but those chat bots are brilliant because I believe with Drift, at least, that you can build audiences. You can probably retarget to them if you can activate them somehow in Google Analytics or Google Ads. But I think, I see a lot of companies using Drift bots, but not being like hungry about it, not being creative about it. They're just like running the same message kind of on every page. There are a few examples, though I can't think of any offhand, that do a really good job with it. But I think that is generally an underutilized technology. But also, Jared, while you have the screen and everybody's attention, why don't we show them Get Tolstoy real quick?
Oh, yeah. Let's get Tolstoy.
Can you guys see Jared's screen?
Huh. Maybe better just Google it. Oh, it's Go Tolstoy. That's why. Okay, Tolstoy. All right.
So this is basically like a lightweight, no code, interactive video builder. So we're talking about multi-step experiences and engaging funnels. This is a way to do that like on a video. I can't hear that.
Yeah, you probably can't hear it, but.
So, what do you want to talk about?
Is that any better? Can you guys hear it?
So you could actually deliver a demo, like in a SaaS environment. You could deliver a demo like this. People would engage with it like crazy, right? And then you don't gate it until they're already like past the point of no return. You know, like you gate it basically at that moment where they're like, if they're still there, they're definitely feeling it. And you can gate it a little bit along the way. You know, like you don't, like you could basically be like, you know, have them or ask 2 of your questions, have them make the selections.
As you can see, Tolstoy conversations are completely personalized, which is why interactive videos have an 80% higher engagement rate than traditional videos. But that's not all. As your leads navigate through
So you see that? You see show me on the beach,
the
right?
conversation, they make choices.
They're kind of flexing a little
Tolstoy
bit.
can qualify your leads, schedule more demos, sell your product, provide frontline support, and lower your ticket volume by 50%. Ask for reviews.
And sometimes you only send them down one path, right? So you say, how does Tolstoy
Ask
actually
for
work?
video. The best part is it's super easy. You can make a
Boom. And then there's our, you know, where do you go from here? You can either get it for free, you can get a deeper tour, or you can ask a video question. And by the way, what you can do on each of these steps is you can send signals back to the platform. So say you're driving Facebook traffic to this or LinkedIn traffic to this, probably better, Facebook would be a better example. You know, you can say like, hey, this person made it to this point in the tour. So for example, if they say they click Get Tolstoy for free, you can then run ads to them to say, hey, you know, how are you liking the platform? Use these features and get them to enroll on their own. If they want a deeper tour, then you can start a funnel to say, if they haven't booked their tour yet, to get them to book the tour, and after the tour to get them to sign up for the free trial, right? So
IOIs and IOQs. It's like
yeah.
IOI, IOQ heaven.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, so we're playing around with this, really encouraging. It is a new product, so it's like you know, it's got a little rough around the edges, but definitely worth a little test.
Yeah.
Like you could basically, another thing in terms of mindset is that you wanna move pretty quickly, but you want to invest aggressively, but you want to do little tests first before you do. Like think of it like a sniff test. Like we have a client right now that has a traditional sales team. They're a B2C financial and they want to complete the entire transaction online. So they were like, hey, you know, our big thing next year is we're going to digitize this whole thing, da, 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 da. And I'm like, that's really smart and that's a good idea. Let's put a little link on the thank you page that just says, hey, wanna do this all online, right? But not actually build anything. Let's just see how many people click it. You know, if somebody clicks, maybe we'll be like, whoops, you know, not quite ready yet. But we want to see how many people are interested in that thing before we invest $1 million, right? So with something like Go Tolstoy or any other tool, in terms of that mindset of just like hungry and let's get after it, like think about the minimum viable product, like the minimum amount of work that you would have to do to test your theory. So like don't grab it and do this whole, you know, 6-month process where you bake out this perfect demo video. You know, instead just have like a really simple video that you spin up quickly and send 100 clicks to it, you know, and see how those 100 clicks compare to your control. But you're not measuring conversion necessarily. You're just measuring how many people start interacting with this thing, because that would be
Yep,
enough to warrant a little more investment, you know?
100%, 100%. So want to move into Q&A here pretty soon, but one more question for you, Chris, is we always like to talk about tools. Like, you know, we talked about kind of the concepts for ads and landing pages. We talked about a tool, which is Tolstoy, which is super awesome. But are there any other tools marketers should be thinking about as we're thinking, like, how can I create ads when the click? How can I get these IOIs and IOQs flowing? Or how do I just generally create experiences that convert better, you know, on my landing pages? What kind of tools come to mind that we should be considering?
Well, we should all be thinking about GA4. Like our core tool sets are like the platforms themselves, GA4, because they're, or Google Analytics, because they're open and expendable, and you know, you can do stuff with them. So you got to have your core stack in place. But if you're not thinking about GA4, I definitely would start, because there are some AI elements baked into it. There are some more advanced, like it's a lot uglier. Like when you log into it, if you haven't yet, you'll be like, what is this? This sucks. But it's a lot more powerful and more advanced, and it pays dividends if you can get your signals, like your IOIs and IOQs, in GA4 and have them be, you can run them, you know, side by side, but to have Google's data set behind that, like it's pretty powerful. So I'd be definitely thinking about GA4. I think like a good dynamic landing page builder is worth its weight in gold. So especially if you're in a scenario where like you have a lot of campaigns and a lot of different keywords and a lot of different landing pages flying around, it's always good to have like an Unbounce or even a HubSpot and Marketo you can use, or what's the other one? The Unbounce competitor, I'm not sure. Or you could build it yourself so that, like with a URL parameter, you know, you can switch out the headline, you can switch out the subtext, you might switch out some other things, just so that you don't have to deal with like a zillion landing pages. A good spy tool, I think, is important, which even LinkedIn, like you can go on LinkedIn and see your competitors' ads, but there's a few good spy tools for search, like SpyFu. SEMrush is a pretty good spy tool. AdSpy, I know is good. There's this other one that Danny Lopez loves, which is escaping me, but you need a good ad spy tool. And I know I'm forgetting some. Hotjar, like as marketers, like we should think about the essence of the thing. And the essence of the thing really is the people, the person on the other side. And I think by and large, marketers that know more about the people on the other side, like, are going to run circles around those that know less. So I think a tool like Hotjar is cool because you can solicit and generate a lot of user voice data. But that's the goal of I mean, Hotjar does a lot of other cool things too, like you can get heat maps and session recordings and stuff. But the user voice, like you need to have a source of user voice, which it probably lives in CRM. You might have call recordings, whatever it is. I would encourage you to spend a lot of time like listening to what people are saying, because you can use it in your ad copy. Like you'll get new ideas for keywords to target. You'll get, you know, they might mention, you know, I'm on such and such LinkedIn group or whatever. Like you get a lot of good intelligence by, like if you have Gong or some kind of call recording, or you record your Zoom calls, like I would just listen to one of those per week. And if you do nothing else, your whole game will be up leveled.
Absolutely. I'll throw a couple in from the more B2B perspective. So, you know, one of the things you can do is use a tool called Clearbit, which is for data enrichment for business emails. So say you send people to a landing page to schedule a demo, and there's just like a work email form, right? And suppose that you also have a list of target accounts that your company is going after, right? What you can do is, if the domain that the work email of the person who fills it out matches a company on your target account list, you can send them to a different direction than if they don't meet that criteria, right? So if they don't meet that criteria, maybe you send them to like a thank you page, just like, hey, thanks for filling out this form. We'll be in touch with a demo soon. Here's a video with what to expect, right? Maybe something that just sets their expectations. But if they're on your target account list, you want to get that in the hands of an AE as soon as possible. So what you want to do is redirect them instead dynamically to a page that uses some sort of meeting scheduling tool, whether it be Chili Piper, whether it be a HubSpot meetings tool, to get that person booked on the calendar, as immediately as possible, because from that domain matching your target account list, that's a good prospect for you. And you want your sales team to meet with them sooner rather than later and to prioritize that account.
Yeah, Clearbit has a conversions product too, where you can ping signals back to the platforms selectively as well.